The event known as the Decimation that annihilated half of all life in the known universe is one of the most tragic and widespread events to plague the Marvel Universe, with lasting consequences that are still impacting the landscape of the Marvel Cinematic Universe to this very day. It seems as if Thanos' actions will continue to be remembered for years to come and films to come. While we believe we saw the extent of his quest throughout Infinity War, some avid Marvel fans have claimed that there is much more to the Mad Titan's mission than we had previously been led to believe. And some have even believed that it might hint at the existence of a far greater threat somewhere in the cosmos. So, stick with us today, watchers of the Marvel Multiverse, and let's explore the possibility that Thanos was actually aware of none other than Galactus, and that the Decimation was designed to not only save what life remained from the Devourer, but might have actually been a plan to starve Galactus out. First, there are a few parts of Infinity War that do not quite line up with Thanos' claiming on the surface, and namely, the demise of his homeworld seems to be shrouded within mystery, as if something larger might have been at play with the destruction of Titan. Thanos claims that his world was destroyed by overpopulation, and we are led to believe that this was the result of famine, war, and the infighting between his people that would eventually wipe out as their society crumbled and they were driven into madness. Yet, when the Avengers arrive on Titan, we get hints that something much larger may have occurred on the planet. When Tony Stark and the Guardians of the Galaxy arrive, Peter Quill first measures the planet's atmosphere, and specifically its axis tilt, stating that Titan is 6 degrees off of its axis and that something drastic happened to the foundation of the very planet itself. This, though, doesn't seem to be the result of any infighting, but instead some sort of cosmic force that had the capacity to quite literally alter the landscape of an entire world. And thanks to Thanos, we know that whatever ravaged the planet did so as a result of the overpopulation. In the MCU, we know that Celestials feed off of life forces and use their energy to create new celestial beings. While Galactus himself is not a Celestial in the original source material, many fans have speculated that there might be a connection for his MCU counterpart. And even if this is not the case, it establishes a principle that beings of Galactus' nature and stature might be prone to consuming life forces. Thanos even delayed the emergence for 5 years, that being the Celestial within Earth, indicating that if Galactus also feeds off of life forces, he might have slowed Galactus down as well, and this may have been his primary plan. One interesting aspect of this theory to note is that Titan's destruction might also have been caused by a celestial emergence, but there are a very few reasons why the Galactus theory seems to be more likely, which are worth touching on briefly. The first of which has to do with Thanos' philosophy about keeping life in balance in order to ensure the continuation of life as a whole. Thanos states that if life is left unchecked, then it will cease to exist. But if he is aware of the Celestials, then he would have likely agreed that emergences were necessary aspects of existence and might not want to necessarily stop celestial emergences. The birth of a new Celestials are key in creating new life at the cost of one planet at a time, and if Thanos had some indication that this is the case, which is now possible due to Thanos' confirmed connection with the Eternals thanks to his brother, then he likely would have agreed with the Celestials' mission, and would have agreed with an aspect of an emergence. Depending on how much he and his colony knew at the time of their destruction, it seems likely that he would have agreed with the need for emergences, much like the likes of Eckardt and Sprite did in the Eternals film. The second reason is that during the animation for a rising celestial that we see in the Eternals film, we see that their births annihilate the planet as a whole, meaning that there would not be a Titan left behind for Thanos to return to if his homeworld hosted an emergence. Galactus, on the other hand, is much different, as he does not provide any redeeming force of the universe, and he seeks only to consume. His nature leaves dead planets in the wake of wherever he goes. He does not create life as a result, or give any benefit to the universe as a whole, and Thanos erasing half of the population might have been a measure to stop Galactus straight in his tracks. If Galactus was responsible for the death of his homeworld, then he might be seeking a way to defeat the Devourer, attempting to starve Galactus out if it means saving the rest of the universe, which makes sense with his ultimate goal. There are several inherent flaws with Thanos' plan that don't seem to line up following the overpopulation as a motive and wanting to destroy half of all life in order for the rest of the life to flourish. But when we reevaluate under this new lens and the lens of Galactus, they seem to make much more sense. events. The main criticism over Thanos' plan is that the population will inevitably return over the course of just a few generations. This would mean that Thanos would have to snap his fingers every few years. If Galactus, though, was the true reason behind his mission, this would have been irrelevant if the solution was never meant to be permanent. Is it possible that he never needed a permanent solution, and he was therefore okay with the population eventually growing back into its previous size and state? If Thanos only needed to buy the universe enough time for Galactus to starve and ultimately die out, then he may not have been concerned with the future ramifications, or furthermore, the logistics of how these societies were meant to thrive. With half of the population now gone, Thanos would have ravaged supply chains and communication lines, making it nearly impossible for the survivors or any given world to distribute the excess resources that they needed. Even though worlds now hypothetically have access to all the necessary resources to thrive, they do not have the manpower nor transportation to take advantage of this, and it seems likely that Thanos would have known about this. After all, Thanos is a brilliant tactician and strategist who has commanded armies for hundreds of years. He understands in depth what it takes to mobilize hundreds of forces and coordinate the distribution of resources, weapons, and supplies to his troops. And surely, he understands that world governments would operate similarly to a military structure in terms of distributing resources. He needs to arm, feed, and supply all of his forces from across the galaxy, and has undoubtedly been exposed to the hardship of mass distribution, and would understand the hassle entailed, leading us to wonder how he could expect the shattered remnants of the world governments to achieve such a feat immediately following half of their population being annihilated. One important factor to take into account in this dialogue in Endgame, of course, wherein he addresses not only how ungrateful this world is, but how he intends to make a new universe from it. The answer to this, most likely, is that Thanos wanted to preserve what he could of this universe from Galactus' grasp, and only after being shown what the Avengers were capable of did he change his game plan. In this new reality, it's unlikely that he could erase Galactus entirely with the use of the stones. If he could, then he would have likely just done that in the first place. What Thanos can do, however, is create planets that are simply not large enough to sustain a population nourishing enough to feed Galactus in the first place. Now that we know his plans are destined to fail though, he might have created a contingency plan. If he cannot save the current universe, he can create a new universe that is safe from Galactus in the first place. Even if a planet is overpopulated and eventually dies out, Thanos could theoretically cap the population capacity of any given world at a figure far below what Galactus needs in order to survive and thrive. And if he is unable to be defeated with the stones, then this might be a better game plan upon finding out what his initial goal of wiping out half of the existing population does not work. But anyway, watchers, what do you think of this prominent theory? Do you think Galactus was the reason Titan died off? And if so, do you think this was Thanos' true motivation? Here on the channel, we're not necessarily saying that we believe in this theory, nonetheless, we find it to be exceedingly interesting and wanted to highlight it here. So, what are your thoughts on this? And do you think that Thanos and this motivation will essentially be tied together in the future when Galactus eventually makes his MCU debut? Do you believe it's all possible that Thanos was actually trying to stop Galactus and him devouring the universe? As always, my friends, thank you guys so much for watching the channel. Hit that subscribe button to assemble and join our team, and have a great day.